Here are the top stories for today, September 24, 2020. President Rodrigo Duterte earns praises for asserting the country's arbitral win. Malacanang rejects a study tagging President Duterte as a medical populist. Eastern Visayas laid out plans to assist locally stranded individuals back to their hometowns, and more than 150,000 learners to receive their modules soon. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang thanked retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio for praising President Rodrigo Duterte's assertion of the Hague-based arbitral ruling. He said the ruling invalidates China's vast claims over the South China Sea before the United Nations General Assembly. Rom Dulfo has the details.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque in a press briefing thanked retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio for praising President Duterte's assertion of the UN-based Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling, which invalidated China's 9-dash line map that covers nearly the entire South China Sea.
Nagpapasalamat po kami kay Justice Carpio. Sa wakas, napurin presidente ni Justice Carpio, no?
Carpio is a staunch critic of President Duterte's handling of the territorial dispute between Philippines and China. Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario also commended President Duterte's invoking the country's legal victory against China, but Roque shrugged him as not a lawyer.
Si Albert Del Rosario po, hindi kasi abogado.
Del Rosario was the country's top diplomat when the Philippines filed its arbitration case against China's massive maritime claims. The Permanent Court of Arbitration released its verdict in favor of the Philippines in July 2016. He says the next step for President Duterte is to put into reality the invocation of the arbitral award. Roque, however, explained that President Duterte has always been consistent in his stand that no country can undermine the arbitral award.
Wala po talaga kasing police na po pwedeng mag-enforce ng arbitral award na yan. Yan po ay narariyan na, nakaukit na po sa tadhana yan, nakaukit na po yan sa international law, wala na po sila magagawa sa decision na yan.
In its debut at the UN General Assembly, President Duterte said the arbitral ruling is now part of international law, beyond compromise and beyond the reach of passing governments to dilute, diminish, or abandon.
We firmly reject attempts to undermine it.
Meanwhile, former Philippine ambassador to the UN, Lauro Baja Jr., sees President Duterte's invocation of the 2016 arbitral award on the South China Sea as a significant first step, and that the government agencies must double their efforts and make the subject a UN agenda item in the future. Baja says President Duterte's first address before the UN General Assembly was comprehensive and authentic. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Senators are also all praises on the speech delivered by President Rodrigo Duterte during the United Nations General Assembly. Senate pro tempore President Ralph Recto said it was a great speech and can win the prize for the best written. He said Duterte was able to plant the country's flag on a territory that historically and legally is ours after the president affirmed the Hague-based Permanent Court Arbitrations Award in 2012. Meanwhile, Senator Panfilo Lacson said the Filipinos, regardless of their politics, should feel proud after Duterte delivered strong and unequivocal position on the West Philippine Sea. Lacson said hearing the president invoke the award before the UN General Assembly, while firmly rejecting any attempt to undermine it, should now erase doubts on where he stands regarding the West Philippine Sea issue. Malacanang firmly rejects the report made by the international journal The Lancet tagging President Rodrigo Duterte as a medical populist. Medical populism is defined as a style of political leadership that simplifies the pandemic by downplaying its impacts or touting easy solutions or treatments. Lancet also tags U.S. President Donald Trump and Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro as medical populists. The President and the IATF-EID are guided by science and hard data in battling the COVID-19 pandemic. Roque said the Duterte administration has put in place concrete interventions to reduce the spread of the coronavirus disease, which includes ramping up the country's testing capacity, enhancing contact tracing efforts, and scaling up of local health system capacity, especially for community isolation and critical care. He also pointed out that a whole-of-government and whole-of-society approaches are implemented to manage the health crisis. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque urged Land Transportation Office Region 7 Director Victor Caindec to proceed with the investigation on alleged anomalies in the release of motorcycle plates. He said there is no person stopping Director Caindec to discontinue his probe. Roque earlier warned an LTO official from Visayas to shape up or ship out amid allegations of corruptions involving dirty deals worth millions of pesos. Caindec later said he believed he was the one being alluded to. According to Roque, he was surprised that Caindec revealed himself and played the issue out to the public. Caindec questioned Roque's motives, claiming that the presidential spokesperson is a former associate of the lawyer of the dealers under investigation. He also said that Roque's pronouncements were part of a well-orchestrated act to pressure him to stop an ongoing LTO-7 probe against a group of motorcycle dealers allegedly involved in large-scale tax evasion. Roque, however, prodded Caindec to push through with the probe, saying all public officials must have a common advocacy on good governance and zero tolerance against corruption. In an update on the status of the missing crew of a cargo vessel which sunk off the coast of Japan early this month, 3 countries have responded to the Philippines' request to help the search and rescue operation. The Gulf Livestock 1 cargo vessel had a 43-man crew, 39 Filipinos, 2 Australians, and 2 New Zealanders. According to Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III, Korea, China, and Taiwan expressed their commitment to help, saying that they have already been helping and will still continue extending their assistance in the search operations. Bello said he sent them the letter through their embassies and the 3 countries appreciated his request. The Panamanian flag vessel owned by Gulf Navigation Holding based in the United Arab Emirates sank on September 3 after experiencing engine trouble amid a typhoon in the seas in southern Japan. Still to come, Eastern Visayas laid out plans to assist locally stranded individuals back to their hometowns. And COVID-19 treatment in the country is said to have improved. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Eastern Visayas Regional Development Council, or RDC, is eyeing to complete the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa Regional Action Plan by November. This as thousands displaced by the pandemic in Metro Manila have expressed their intention to return to Region 8. Eastern Visayas ranks as the top destination for returnees under the BP2 program based on applications received by the National Housing Authority. As of September 1, more than 20,000 applicants residing in Metro Manila expressed their desire to return to Leyte and Samar provinces. The plan being drafted by members of the Balik Probinsya 2 Regional Committee is centered on the empowerment of local industries, food security, agricultural productivity, housing, social welfare, health, employment, human resource development, and infrastructure development. The government is continuously ramping up contact tracing schemes in the country. According to DILG Secretary Eduardo Año, aggressive contact tracing is a game changer to defeat COVID-19.
Well, Seth Martin, we are dealing with an invisible enemy. Hindi natin nakikita. And the only way really to find the enemy, which is the virus, is really through contact tracing. And then we can do the testing and we can isolate. Although before the testing, dapat ay naka-isolate or quarantine na rin yung ating suspect. So with additional 50,000 contact tracers, it's really a game changer. No? Parang dinagdagan natin yung ating mga intelligence people para hanapin itong virus.
Local government units in the provinces are also intensifying their contact tracing efforts. Details from Leib Kabagani.
In line with the national government's efforts to boost contact tracing in the country, local government units also find ways to efficiently carry out the measure. In Zamboanga City, an Android-based phone application for contact tracing will be used. The app has a geotagging capability for more accurate contact tracing. This project is a joint initiative of the City Planning and Development Office together with the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT. In Cotabato, residents are urged to register to the local contact tracing program following the reported 15 new COVID-19. The new cases brought the city's active cases to 84 with 1 death. In a statement, the city government says their contact tracing team is currently investigating the history of these new cases to identify their close contacts and the places that they have been to in the past week. The city has some 290,000 residents. 250,000 have so far registered under its digital contact tracing program as of last week. Meanwhile, Dumaguete City has adopted the DOH order of priority for administering tests for COVID-19. The first priority would be patients, including medical professionals and health workers that exhibit severe to critical symptoms. The second priority would include medical professionals and healthcare workers with mild symptoms and known exposure to a positive patient. And the third priority are medical professionals and healthcare workers with no symptoms or those who are asymptomatic but with known exposure to a positive patient. Dumaguete City has no active positive case of the coronavirus for almost 3 weeks now. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Leib Kabagani.
The Department of Health says critical utilization rate in public and private hospitals nationwide has improved. In a press briefing, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said Oplan Kalinga contributed to the decongestion of public and private hospitals as it encouraged those who need not be hospitalized to just stay in temporary treatment and monitoring facilities.
Okay, kung titignan natin sa ngayon, if we compare from the previous 2 weeks, itong ating mga critical care utilization, makikita natin sila for the National Capital Region, nung August, as I always say, umakyat tayo hanggang 81% utilization. And then by September 2, ang ating critical care utilization is just at 67%. And as of September 20, we are down to 58%. Sa Cebu, nakita natin talaga yung pagbaba, And we were able to witness kung paano nila decongest ang kanilang health system sa Cebu. No? So last September 2, they were at 38% and now at 35%. And Bulacan, medium risk pa rin sila, 50%, and noong September 20, 49%. This is not just because na nakakapag-discharge tayo ng pasyente. This is also because of the additional resources na inibinigay natin. Nakapagbukas tayo ng additional units sa mga ospital. We were able to mandate na both public and private facilities na magbukas pa ng additional units in their hospitals. At nagkaroon tayo ng one hospital command para ma-strengthen din yung ating referral network natin, and so that we can have rational admissions for COVID-19 dito sa iba't ibang ospital natin.
In our business news, the Philippines is on its journey to explore the potentials of nuclear power as a reliable source of energy. During the opening session of the two-day International Atomic Energy Agency Scientific Forum in Vienna, Austria on Tuesday, Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi said it is the right time for the Philippines to embark on a full national nuclear energy program. The DOE chief said the Philippines was one of the first Southeast Asian countries to embark on a nuclear energy program with the creation of the Philippine Atomic Energy Commission in 1958. The country also hosted the region's only nuclear power plant, the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, in the 1980s. Recently, President Duterte ordered the creation of an interagency committee to study the feasibility of introducing nuclear power in the country's energy mix. Cusi said the new committee will do collaborative work with the IAEA towards the realization of the country's nuclear energy program. Up next, PDEA and PCOO have partnered in the anti-drug campaign. What are their plans? And more than 150,000 learners to receive their modules soon. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, Presidential Communications Operations Office, and two media and events organizations have partnered to bring the government's anti-drug campaign to a wider audience. PDEA Director General Wilkins Villanueva said the state-run PTV4 and DZRB 738 AM Radio Pilipinas will serve as mediums in bringing to the public the government's fight against illegal drugs. These will be aired simulcast by Radio Pilipinas and PTNI at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Villanueva also signed an agreement with broadcaster Erwin Tulfo for the co-production of a TV program titled Tutok PDEA Contra Droga, which will be aired from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. every Wednesday on PTV4. Meanwhile, Villanueva and Renan Lopez, marketing director of Pinoy Extreme Channel, also signed an agreement for the program PDEA Extreme, which features the national campaign for drug prevention and control. PDEA Extreme will be aired every Saturday from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. with replays on Sunday from 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. via channel 106 in Signal Cable Pinoy Extreme Channel. The Department of Education released 30 million pesos in incentives for teachers in the Cordillera region. Public schools in General Santos City, meanwhile, received learning materials for over 154,000 students. More on this from Chris Mundo.
The Department of Education has downloaded a total of 30 million pesos to 8 schools division offices in the Cordillera Administrative Region for the additional incentive of teachers. Each teacher personnel from kindergarten to grade 12 will receive a total of 1,500 pesos additional incentive. The teachers are also entitled to 300 pesos per day allowance for attending webinars. DEPED is still studying the possibility of giving communication allowance to the teachers considering their high usage of their cellular phones and internet in the performance of their job during the pandemic. In General Santos City, public schools have fast-tracked the distribution of learning modules and related materials to over 154,000 learners in preparation for the opening of classes on October 5. DEPED assured on Wednesday that local schools are now ready for the upcoming school opening despite the increasing cases of local transmission of COVID-19. The city government had allocated around 150 million pesos as support to public schools in the area for the implementation of the alternative learning modes this school year amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the United States Agency for International Development donated students' kits and teachers' kits to earthquake-hit schools in Davao del Sur on September 22. The kits were handed over virtually to DEPED officials in Manila and physically to officials, teachers, and parents in Magsaysay, Davao del Sur. The province was hit by a series of earthquakes in December last year, which damaged nearly 400 schools and affected 188,000 students. USAID gave the assurance that it is helping young students gain the foundational skills they need to lead productive and healthy lives. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
26 members of the New People's Army and a mass-based supporter who recently surrendered were formally presented by military authorities in a ceremony in Masbate on Tuesday. The 9th Infantry Division said the surrenderers denounced terrorism and pledged allegiance to the government. 15 of the surrenderers were regular NPA terrorists. 9 were militiang bayan, 2 were part of sangay ng partido sa lokalidad, and 1 was a supporter. They also surrendered 4 high-powered firearms and 28 low-powered firearms. Masbate Governor Antonio Co, chairman of PTF-LCAP, recognized the Army and the PNP for their exemplary performance, resulting in the continuous surrender of communist terrorist group members. The Armed Forces of the Philippines expressed regret over Facebook's decision to take down the page of Hands Off Our Children, whose advocacy is to protect minors from organizations espousing violent extremism. AFP Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay acknowledged that the page was instrumental in raising awareness of the vulnerability of children in the hands of Communist Front organizations. Gapay said the military stands by the parents whose children were recruited by groups allied with the Communist Party of the Philippines. He noted that communist terrorists have been known to recruit and victimize students, conditioning them to become cadres and members of their armed wing, the New People's Army. Facebook earlier shut down pages, accounts, groups, and Instagram profiles managed by people allegedly affiliated with the Philippine military and police for coordinated inauthentic behavior. Gapay said the AFP looks to a new partnership with Facebook Philippines that similar legitimate advocacies would be respected to prevent the spread of violent extremism and protect Filipino children. Former Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle has recovered from COVID-19. In an article posted on the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines News website, the news was announced by Pontificio Colegio Filipino in Rome on Wednesday. On September 10, Tagle tested positive for COVID-19 upon his arrival in Manila from Rome. He is the prefect of the Vatican's Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples and president of Caritas Internationalis. He was the first Roman Curia dicastery head to have caught the virus. Tagle recovered 13 days after he contracted the disease. At least 4 other bishops in the country got infected with COVID-19. Retired Imus Bishop Manuel Sobreviñas and Lingayen Dagupan Emeritus Archbishop Oscar Cruz died, while Manila Apostolic Administrator Bishop Broderick Pabilio and retired Caloocan Bishop Deogracias Iñiguez have fully recovered. A trade expo was launched in Surigao City, showcasing their local food and non-food products. Venus Garcia filed this report.
Even with the cancellation of the annual fiesta celebration in Surigao City due to the pandemic, the locals are keeping busy in promoting and patronizing the locally made products. Assorted food and non-food items were showcased during the launch of the Karajuanan Surigao Trade Expo 2020, spearheaded by the Department of Trade and Industry, Surigao del Norte Provincial Office, together with the Surigao Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated. This is the first online trade expo conducted in Caraga region. DTI Surigao del Norte initiated and opted for Digital Trade Expo as a strategy to help address the economic turmoil associated with the coronavirus pandemic. According to DTI Surigao del Norte Provincial Director Elmer Natad, the agency is ensuring that necessary interventions for the MSMEs are provided amid the crisis, such as selling of top products via online display and live streaming. The Trade Expo was also made possible through the assistance of the DTI Negosyo Center coordinators of the municipality of Claver, Bacuag, Placer, Mainit, including Surigao City and the towns of Siargao Island.
Tabangan nato anato mga local entrepreneurs para anato sa ekonomiya sa probinsya maka-recover kay waya man gid kita ma-spare from the adverse effect of this pandemic COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the local business stakeholders were thankful for providing them the platform and opportunity to sustain their source of livelihood by offering their products in the digital market in this time of the pandemic.
Nagpapasalamat kami sa DTI sa ini nga event nga dako malaki ang naitulong sa amin para sa aming mga produkto na maipakilala namin sa buong Pilipinas.
Surigao Chamber of Commerce Board of Director Engineer Donel Santos said that their organization is fully supporting the Trade Expo as this is their way of promoting the economic recovery programs of the government. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Venus Garcia of the Philippine Information Agency, Caraga.
Here's the latest in our community billboard. The entrance examination for the Philippine Military Academy has opened in Caraga region on Wednesday in Bayugan City, Agusan del Sur. At least 556 examinees are expected to take the exams. Examinees from various parts of the region will be fetched every morning on a free ride from Butuan City to Lope Aces Memorial Gymnasium in Bayugan City. Aside from the regular requirements, the examinees were required to wear face masks, face shields, and to bring disinfectants for their personal use. Examinees are also asked to bring a medical certificate issued within 48 to 72 hours. The examination will run until Saturday, September 26, 2020. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. President Rodrigo Duterte earns praises for asserting the country's arbitral win. Malacanang rejects a study tagging President Duterte as a medical populist. Eastern Visayas laid out plans to assist locally stranded individuals back to their hometowns, and more than 150,000 learners to receive their modules soon. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day, stay safe, everyone.